Let me explain what we're doing here. I'm going to compare my fastest lap on my sim with a model of my racing car, my real racing car, versus the fastest lap I did in a race about 2 weeks ago at the same track. Now I managed to do 1 second faster on my sim than I did in real life. That's not always the case, because at the moment I'm practicing for another track called Croft, and at the moment my fastest time at Croft last year is more than a second faster than the fastest lap I can do in my sim. So the sim model is not absolutely perfect, obviously, but it's pretty good. So let's have a look what we come up with here. Okay, so here we're approaching, we're coming out the start-finish straight. Obviously in the race I'm racing against cars, but I don't think, they certainly didn't impede me on this lap. It was a good lap. You can see from my best time for lap 4, I've been doing 2:30s. I've been doing 2:30s consistently, and this was a 2:29 lap, as we'll see. Okay, this all looks pretty straightforward. I'm going to go back over this and try and do it bit by bit, but let's see how we get on. Okay, yeah, so I'm already ahead on the sim. So I must have come out of turn 1 faster. Let's have a look. One board, turn, I don't know. Yeah, I'm a little bit behind the sim. Okay, now I am behind. If you look at that building on the right, and then if we look at this Marshall post coming up, yeah, so I'm probably about a third of a second, 3/10 off already. Yeah, I'm around the corner already in the sim. Yeah, over to the left. Okay. Yeah, you can see I'm up a fair bit on the real lap. Okay, it hasn't changed that much though. I don't think I'm a second down at this point. Unfortunately I don't, although I do have a timer on the real lap, I don't have it on the replay of my sim lap. Okay, very different line there. Did you notice on the real lap I stayed right over to the left and then turned in? Yeah, I'm now more than half a second behind, I would say, at this point. Yeah, look at that, I'm turning there, now I'm just turning. Yeah, so that's more than half a second, I would say, there. And I guess it's the run down to the line that loses the rest. Now let's look at the areas where I think the discrepancies occur. The most important thing I noticed at turn 1 is look at the 2 speeds. You can see that I'm 10 kph slower through that corner. Using some references on the side of the track, I calculated that by the midpoint of this straight I'm 6/10 down, so the real lap is 6/10 behind the sim lap. That time difference remains constant through the next turn, so we're going to look at turn 3 now. Let's slow this down to see if we can spot the differences. Okay, now bear in mind the top one is going to be ahead of the bottom one because I'm ahead, by 6/10. The thing you notice there is a very late turn in, going for a very late apex at the top. At the bottom I'm sort of going towards the curb early on, and that was because we were following a line where basically go across the curb and floor it. Now you see coming out I've still got angle on the steering wheel on the bottom one, which means that I'm what I think people call pinching the corner, which is basically you having to turn right at the exit to stay on the track. The sum total of that then puts me down more than a second, so that had a big effect. As far as I can tell, the performance around the next few corners seems to be exactly the same. I'm taking the same line, take the middle and then turn in there. I pinch the exit a bit in real life coming out of that corner, that left-hander. It's called Agostini. This is Snetterton, by the way. Now it's a corner called Hamilton, fast left hand, dog leg. Coming up to here, Oggies. This was the same, but the curbing has all changed, so it was very difficult to compare the times. The next place I compared was just coming out of this turn, which is Williams, onto the back straight, and as far as I could tell at this point I was still a second down. I may have gained a little bit in real life actually in that whole section, but it's quite difficult to see where I gained. But what I want to do is look now at this next complex coming up, which is a left-right chicane. Now the thing that interested me here was the difference in line. So you can see turn-in is pretty much the same in both cases, but if you look at the bottom one, I stay right across to the left, whereas in the top one I sort of go diagonally across to the right-hander, which in theory should make it really tight for me coming out, but it seemed to work out okay, and I can confirm that I'm still 1 second down at this point. So that corner, that chicane, left-right chicane, has had no effect on the differences in the times. Bomb hole there, I don't think there's going to be any differences there, so I think we're good to this point. Okay, let's just check out the remainder of the lap. So this sweeping right-hander is called Corsa. It's very fast. You have to balance the car on the throttle. I'm doing the same in both the sim session and the real life. You have to spot that apex and turn in, and then you're away towards the start finish line. So what we'll do is we'll try and check the time at the start finish line. So the times you see here are, the real time is obviously from the data logger. You can see it on the data logger there. The 228.59 sim time came off of the sim. It does actually display the final lap time. So almost exactly a second. And I think in the real session I may have gained on the sim session very slightly, round Coram and coming out of Murray's, or round Murray's. But yeah, it's very similar. You can see where you know that turn one is so important. If you can get round turn one quickly, you can make such a lot of time round there, and that's even been true in my development of my times at Snetterton when I've been racing in my car. The first time I raced, I was doing slower times, and the time difference between turn one in the later faster laps and turn one back then is pretty big. So I hope you found that interesting, and I'll catch you on the next one.